Fear begins as a chemical spike in the nervous system. It is a biological survival mechanism evolved over millions of years to alert a creature when its environment has become lethal. In the modern world, this survival circuit has been redirected. Governments, media networks, and digital algorithms have identified that if they can trigger that same spike, they can guide human behavior. These institutions offer promise of constant security and the comfort to quiet the alarm. This creates a state of manufactured anxiety, where an individual learns to trade their autonomy for the safety of the herd, governed by the hands pulling the strings. Every time a man cowers to avoid necessary friction, he stagnates. The Stoics and Roman thinkers like Cicero viewed this as a violation of natural law, the objective moral order where every living thing must fulfill its highest design. To choose silence and obedience over truth is to surrender that design, resulting in a fragmented soul. Regaining sovereignty requires a shift in signals on how you process these signals. You must stop trying to escape the pressure and instead learn to use it as the primary fuel for your own growth. The warrior philosopher is the person who rejects the safety of the herd. They recognize that wisdom is rarely a product of comfort, so they voluntarily step toward the challenges that others spend their lives avoiding. The ancient Greeks called this path mathos, the idea that wisdom is purchased through suffering. This creates gnosis, a deep experimental knowledge of yourself that only reveals itself when your superficial layers are burned away by hardship. Historical archetypes show us that the hero's transformation requires a descent into the unknown. They must go where they are most afraid to look in order to find the insight they need to evolve. Hercules engaged the Hydra and performed his 12 labors as a deliberate choice. He endured impossible physical weight and exhaustion because he understood that a life without trials is a life without the strength of the gods. In the Christian tradition, the crucifixion represents the absolute surrender of the small field for self by walking through the sacrifice with a composed mind. Their narrative shows a path to a higher level of being, no longer reactive to pain. Struggle is the mandatory currency for true personal sovereignty. It is the only way to prove to yourself that you are no longer a victim of your circumstances, but the master of your own character. When you master your response to suffering, your psychology changes. You start to view fear as actionable data. It marks the edge of your current ability, showing exactly where to apply focus. Machiavelli instructed the sovereign to embody both the lion and the fox. Project the lion's strength to command respect, while cultivating the fox's cunning to recognize traps set by predatory society. Becoming the lion requires shadow work, the practice of confronting your own internal capacity for aggression. You have to stop pretending you are harmless and instead look at these parts of yourself that you have suppressed. An unexamined shadow is a liability. When aggression is denied, it leaks out as passive-aggressive behavior, resentment, or cowardice. Most people claim to be moral are actually just afraid to act because they have never trained their inner fire. This is the concept of the integrated predator. By acknowledging your capacity for violence, you can train it into disciplined force. This gives you the power to remain calm and precise under pressure, acting with conscience rather than reacting with panic. A man who knows his own shadow cannot be easily manipulated. He becomes a guardian of his principles, capable of wielding power without becoming a tyrant. The logical conclusion of this integration is apotheosis, the moment you fulfill your highest human potential. In this state where the parts of you that were once ruled by fear have been discarded, leaving only your strongest, most conscious self. This creates an alignment with logos, or divine reason. When your actions are consistent with truth and natural law, you develop an internal authority. External forces lose their power because your sense of self no longer depends on their permission or safety. This authority is visible in what we call the warrior's face. It is the look of command and respect earned by standing on your ground when you're exhausted and speaking the truth when it is dangerous. It makes cowardice impossible in your presence. This presence is the ultimate defense against the control system established in the modern world. They rely on people who are easily frightened and easily bought. When you have mastered your fear, you become uncontrollable. You must stop seeing fear as a master and start seeing it as an initiation. Accept radical responsibility for your own life and character. Voluntarily step into the friction that the rest of the world is running from. True victory is victory over yourself. By walking the path of the word philosopher, you stop being a subject of the system and start being the sovereign hero of your own story. Go forth and conquer your fear. The rest will follow.